Here's a fun thought experiment. Who are the top 5 most extra characters in Friendship is Magic? Pause the video if you want to think about it, but it's actually much tougher competition than I thought it would be. For my money, that list goes as follows. Number 5 goes to Twilight Sparkle, number 4 goes to Bulk Biceps, number 3 is Rarity, number 2 is Cheese Sandwich and his wife by extension, and you already know the top spot because you clicked on this video. Trixie sits at the very top of an exceedingly eccentric list so crowded by loud, boisterous characters that I couldn't even fit Discord into my top 5. She's a really fun character played with intense snobbery by the immensely talented Kathleen Barr, a veteran voice actor with a storied history of playing exceptionally snobby characters. She's also an intensely opportunistic take me where the wind blows character who isn't necessarily the kind of pony you would want to be roommates with. But what started as an excuse for me to geek out about the philosophy of magic for 10 minutes has slowly morphed into an encore apology tour for one of the most paradoxically likable characters in the series. I'm not going to convince a lot of you that a character this loud and obnoxious is worth this level of introspection, and I'm still not sure if I buy it myself, but I'm convinced that I haven't been giving her a fair shake, and I want to rectify that. Trixie is introduced as the primary antagonist of Boast Busters, as a boastful traveling stage magician making a stop in Ponyville. And in true Trixie fashion, her first and worst appearance brings up a major issue with her conception that I've wanted to chew on for a while. What place is there for a magician in a world where magic both exists and can be performed by a third of the population? Isn't a trunk escape trivially easy in a world where the main character has been teleporting since episode 2? Is there any merit to card tricks in a world where thick facial hair can be poofed into existence? It seems on the surface like the scope of magic in Equestria would render Trixie's stage magic obsolete. I had to dive into a bit of headcanon to square those two ideas, but I think I have it. Trixie tells Starlight in No Second Prances about her hero Houdini, a play on the turn-of-the-century Hungarian magician Harry Houdini, based on the obvious punny name as well as the art shift to old film reel when she explains his greatest trick, the moonshot manticore mouth dive. Seeing as how his namesake died in 1926 of blunt trauma and acute appendicitis, he's likely a historical figure shown to her by her father Jackpot, a working stage magician in Las Pegasus. Yeah, by the way, Trixie has a possibly canonized father in the series, but for right now I'm ignoring both him and the fan theory about Trixie being trans because both of those aspects to her character fit so much better in next month's episode on fan theories, so stay tuned. Trixie was probably enamored at a young age by her father's retellings of the trick and decided to become a magician herself. She clearly cares about her craft, because if all she cared about was attention, there are safer ways to get it besides being almost eaten by a mythical creature. I also know this isn't just a superficial interest because of all the hyper-specific references to actual magical props that she uses, including smoke bombs, handkerchiefs, and padlocks. Even one of her stage assistants in the comics is named Pepper's Ghost, a real deep-cut reference to an illusion used by stage magicians from the 1860s that is still used today in attractions like the Haunted Mansion. But all the passion in Equestria is nothing if she can't draw a crowd in a world where 1 in 3 people could levitate things and any mid-level unicorn can disappear and reappear. In a word, presentation. Penn and Teller have a famous routine involving cups and balls that relies on a well-rehearsed series of palms and misdirects to repeatedly teleport tinfoil balls underneath a series of cups. The second half of the routine is a repeat of the first, only this time with transparent cups, but the routine is so tightly choreographed that I still find it intensely satisfying due to the amount of cleanliness and showmanship involved. What Trixie lacks over her rival Twilight in raw, natural, magical ability, she makes up for with a flair for presentation that isn't really matched anywhere else. The ability to give your assistant facial hair is less a performance and more akin to a party trick, like being double-jointed or able to hold your breath for a long time. Trixie's magic routines are carried by flair for visual presentation over innate ability. The distinction between the two lies in a really cool quirk of language between what Equestria considers magic, teleportation, production, transformation, etc., and what we in the real world consider magic. A sense that something is clearly being used to produce an effect, but appreciating the flourish and cleanliness with which a trick is performed. If I was standing here talking to you and all of a sudden I was across the room making a sandwich, it would be novel, but not particularly impressive if you knew it was just a thing I knew how to do. Trixie's visual flair focuses on heavy use of pyrotechnics, smoke effects, and an overbearing stage presence which fits her character perfectly, and made her a great single-use villain for early series My Little Pony. But I also mentioned that her first appearance was also her worst, and the fact that it almost cost us a dozen more episodes of Kathleen Barr makes me want to strangle the writers for almost whiffing her introduction. It's a cold take, but here it is. Aside from lying about wrangling an Ursa Major, it's not obvious that Trixie's in the wrong here. All I saw was her start a magic routine screen and get immediately heckled by 3 of the main characters. Requisite reminder that this is a show intended for children, but giving the role of non-resident show-off to a performance artist was not the greatest way to inspire disdain, and the script throws Trixie in the same bargain bin as Snips and Snails to get the point across. She disappears into the horizon in the episode's 3rd act, but Kathleen Barr was able to make one more surprise guest appearance in the show's original 65-episode run for Magic Duel, turning up the danger when she returns bigger and badder than ever with the aid of a late-night Gremlins purchase and a serious bone to pick. This is the closest the show ever got to Lauren Faust's original vision for Trixie as a show-off sorcerer serving as Twilight's rival, and as such, it's got noticeably different DNA from the rest of the series. There's edge, deceit, and a really consistent theming about misdirection and the literal magic of friendship. On that note, it's one of the best Trixie episodes in the series. The episode sets up Trixie and Twilight as wonderful foils to one another. The unicorn who wanted nothing more than to be an accomplished stage magician, honing her craft for the entirety of her adult life, and the naturally gifted unicorn who made the loudest character in the show bang like a hollow drum, unsure of her own place in the world. The episode caps off with a tease of a possible redemptive arc, because even when the show was only slated for 65 episodes, supervising director Jim Miller and the team saw really fertile potential for character-driven stories and put a pin in her, just in case. And that's kind of what I think draws a lot of people to a character that seems really unlikable on the surface. This potential for growth. It's something I can relate to because I share that same cringeworthy adolescence that Trixie went through. When I was a freshman in high school, I somehow got it into my head that I needed to have a thing in order to get people to like me. Something to make me stand out more instead of, just talking to people. And for whatever reason, in case you haven't noticed it yet, for the next 3 years, I got really into magic. I taught myself sleight of hand and a half-dozen card tricks I would practice ad nauseum. I watched an upsetting amount of Chris Angel Mind Freak and even bought the guy's autobiography. For 3 years, I was the most obnoxious person you've ever met, and every time I think about it, I want to jump into a cement mixer. Trixie's entire arc revolves around learning to forgive yourself for who you were before, even if others won't. And for better or worse, I identify with that. Jim and the team agreed, stating that they always wanted Trixie to make a return, but weren't immediately sold on a story idea that made sense for her to return to. Which is why it was doubly impressive that by the time season 6 rolled around, the writing team had found a way to kill 3 birds with 2 stones. If season 6 had a theme, it was finding a place for characters that the team liked writing for, but weren't sure how they fit into the world at large. Discord is a naturally charismatic being, but it wasn't until he started playing O&O with Spike and Big Mac that he chilled out on his endless, meaningless cycle of punking anyone he came into contact with for and giggles, and adopted a sort of focus to his character. In the same way, the team realized that Starlight and Trixie click into an almost effortless straight man, funny man dynamic that solved the simultaneous issues of finding a direction for a brand new secondary character and a smarmy returning character that didn't previously have a place in the larger framework of the series. The series earns their friendship in No Second Prances, an emotionally complex meet-cute that I was way too hard on in my upcoming ranking of every episode of the show. It's probably the darkest Trixie episode, but from then on out, Trixie appears in 11 more episodes in the back half of the series. Most of them are at least decent, and virtually all of them are a good time. For example, Trixie dials her denseness up to 11 to teach Starlight that it's okay to get mad at friends. Trixie's abrasiveness rubs off on Starlight to show that neither of them were prepared for the emotional challenges of traveling together. Trixie phones in a job interview to a grossly negligent degree to illustrate to Starlight the dangers of nepotism. I'm being deliberately tongue-in-cheek here because when people discuss Trixie, there's that one thing that people seem to bring up more than anything else. Trixie kinda sucks. Her general abrasive attitude towards basically everything rubs a lot of people the wrong way to a degree that I have to be really careful expressing, lest I get called out for being a massive hypocrite for being the world's biggest Discord hater. Maybe I find her charming right now because I just spent 2 weeks researching the character for this video, but I'm gonna try to step up to bat. Put simply, you can't have a straight man without the cynic. I picked those unfair examples on purpose because despite how cartoonishly infuriating she is in half of her episodes in the back half of the series, the lessons just don't scan as well if the slights against the target of the Aesop aren't played hard and blunt. Think about how effective those stories would be if all Trixie did was ruin Starlight's tea cakes or shirk off prepping a lesson plan for a job interview. At some point early in my time as a brony, I think I came to the conclusion that some characters were designed for ease of storytelling to a younger audience, and that being on the lookout for subtlety and character motivation is fighting a losing battle. Which isn't to say that she's not in a handful of great episodes, from the Jigsaw finale of season 6 to being a naturally charismatic mentor to a special boy that loves magic almost as much as she does. When she's not the rusty gear of the episode, she gels with the rest of the cast so well that you'd never know that she was nearly absent for the first half of the series. A lot of the episodes with harder or more important lessons need a heel to work, and I think we need to take a step back and appreciate the people who have to take huge falls to build each other up. I like to give shoutouts to obscure pieces of pony media whenever I can, but even if you're not a Trixie fan, I strongly urge you to go read Manehattan Mysteries, a 2-issue story arc from IDW's Gen 4 run about Trixie being framed for a diamond heist. It's a really satisfying whodunit, and I will sing IDW's praises from my grave, but it's also got what Friendship is Magic Trixie never had. Time to talk frankly with Bab Seed and the rest of the audience about the crushing weight of not being able to get over the wrongs you committed in the past. The entire arc plays to Trixie's strengths, painting her at her absolute most sympathetic, and it's some of the best pony anything I've ever experienced. But that's what happens every time I do one of these character deep dives. I realize that what comes across as a one-note character actually belies a deceiving degree of complexity for a kid's show, and then I spend 3 hours watching their greatest hits on repeat while I put the video together. Thanks for watching. I'm glad I did this because it's kind of revitalized my interest in magic these last few weeks, and my YouTube recommendations are now chock full of Penn and Teller bits and old Chris Angel episodes. In August, I'm doing an episode on My Little Pony fan theories, and I can already tell it's going to be absolutely insane thanks to all the lore hunters out there. In the meantime, I'm some horse on the internet. Thanks for watching.